Good morning, everyone. It's the Music Reel. It's Nicola Burton from Music Means Business. I have with me today the Pushies, Manny, Mark and Michael, and a very special guest today. We've got Mr. Rick Butterworth from Ingrooves Music with us today. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good to see you all.
Good to see you too, Rick.
Thanks for coming, Rick.
Yeah,
thanks.
You're welcome, mate.
All right. Well, Mr. Rick Butterworth, what can we say? He's been a record company and he's been in executive now, I'd say, for the better part of around 25 years. I think we met about 23 years ago. I won't mention any labels, but you were involved in some of Australia's most salient independent labels, and now you are the Australasian manager and Australian manager for Ingrooves digital aggregation, which is part of the Universal Music Group. And I guess you're enjoying this particular role at the moment nationally here in Australia. And without further ado, here's Mr. Rick Butterworth. So tell us a little bit about what Ingrooves is about.
Okay, mate. Well, look, thank you for the introduction, Manny. I appreciate that, mate. Look, my role up to extremely recently was doing that very thing. So I kind of came into the Ingrooves team just shy of 6 years ago with a directive really around setting up the brand in the territory, which had yet to explore the Asian Australian regions, and develop kind of relationships with DSPs, key stakeholders, form new business relationships around label development, and start to build that whole kind of boots on the ground territory structure that we kind of needed here. So I'm really just about moving into new business and really kind of label development. So working really strategically with our labels, helping them build their businesses. As you mentioned, we're a part of the Universal Music Group, which went down in full ownership around March last year. So Universal bought Ingrooves Music International as full stakeholders in March last year. And what that's done is take an independent company and give them a lot more resources and really help us in the development of expansion across the entire world, with maintaining a direction of an independent focus. So our core business is all about working with independent artists, independent labels, and then getting them to the world stage.
Perfect. And that's exactly what we're interested in, because so many of our cover artists are funding their original projects by performing live and local covers. So I know Michael has got an interesting independent release coming out soon. So Michael, I think you've got a question for Rick.
Yeah, just in relation to it, Rick. What for independent artists and something? What's the best sort of way for them to go around their release and making that sort of thing happen, so it gets into the the wider public, and rather than just a very small sort of narrow thing, whether it be a very small Facebook thing or just friends and family? How do they get it into the bigger marketplace out there?
I would probably suggest, Michael, starting with at the very start. So when an artist is looking at launching a product base, is taking the time and the effort to actually make sure that they have a plan and a product direction before they do anything. So, kind of making the record is one part of it. And that's, obviously the fun part and the creative part. But the other fun and creative part is really about how do you get it to market and what do you do around it. And as much time, if not sometimes maybe more, should be spent on what to do and how to implement that in place before you go there. Big mistake that I find a lot of acts and independent, especially new artists, make is that they're very excited about getting that kind of track or that record together, and then their immediate kind of goal is just to get it out, to have it sitting on Spotify. And what everyone very quickly finds out is that as soon as it is out, it comes and it goes. So without having that strategy in place, without having that long-term direction about how you build a track, a product over a period of time to maintain that body of work so that you actually maximize your efforts. And how do you build profile throughout that period of time is all about having that strategic structure, about having, you know, what you're going to do around your Facebook or your social media assets, making sure that, you know, you have a little bit of spending money to be able to reach your audience, making sure that you've covered all bases. How do you deal with making sure that you've built relationships with traditional media? How do you make sure that, you know, you're still looking at possibilities of servicing to radio, and what applications and means have you got to that? And really, you know, that whole process is about making sure that you've thought about all those bases. You know, people are seeing a lot of really successful independent artists exploding on a world stage. They're not doing that just by putting a track out. They're doing that by thinking about all those things strategically and making sure that they've covered all their bases when they start, and for what that's going to look like in 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months.
Which is what we're trying to do, is get people to build that strong music brand. And as part of their team, have the radio plugger, have the publicist, but having that brand narrative. And then it is a long-term investment, a long-term commitment. So thank you. That really helps, because that's what we've been sort of banging on about for such a long time, guys. You've heard Rick say that. I think Mark has a question for you.
Yeah, quick one from myself there, Rick. What changes can you envisage in the future digital versus live scene after all this sort of boils down a little bit?
Great question, mate. I think, and what we're already probably currently seeing, is an explosion in new growth trends. So the TikTok platform is probably a really good one to start with right now, because it's on the tip of everyone's tongues. It's gone from late last year to, hey, this is a thing, to right now, this is the thing.
Current, yeah.
That's, and look, you know, in lockdown, with little else to do, people are making videos on a scale that we've probably never seen before. So I think those things will really enhance. Will we ever lose our real traditional market of live music? There's no way.
No.
People want that live interaction. People want that live experience. People want to go and be fulfilled by socializing with other people and experiencing music firsthand. But having said that, the key here is about how important all your assets and your digital assets are outside of being live. You know, one of the key things that we've always tried to instill with our artists is that, you know, an act works on two levels. They're a live band and they're a recording band. And a recording band now is, you know, a band that works in a digital asset space. So you've really got to make sure that you've covered both to the utmost degree to make sure you're successful in the marketplace today.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
And look, one final question, Rick, if you could go back in time to December last year, what would you tell yourself?
I thought you were going to take me back a lot further than that, Nicole, which started to scare me as you were speaking. If I was going to go back to December last year and I was an artist, I'd be thinking, probably, why wasn't I more invested in making sure that my digital assets and my future rollout were currently in place? And taking that time to invest in understanding all the various platforms and making sure that we had a handle on being able to work out our key reach within those targets and what are the best assets to use for them. However, having said that, you know, I also believe that this time has probably given many artists a really good opportunity to self-assess that as we've been going and probably start developing really quickly about getting that stuff out. We're watching a lot of people come up with live performances online. We're watching a lot of people really hone in on these skills and build their digital platforms really quickly. So I think that's a real positive for these artists to come out.
Absolutely. It's the most exciting time, but, you know, we've seen now, you know, between myself and Rick, we've seen 2.5 and 3 generations of the music industry. So it's one of the most exciting times where a local artist or independent artist can produce their own recordings at home in a home studio on a digital platform. They can buy the same software as any major studio. They can create a great product. They then can progress that product through the mechanisms of Ingrooves or the associated labels, and then they can find success on a digital platform internationally. and it can all be done independently rather than the mechanisms of yesteryear when we had labels that were dictating to artists and there was only a small mechanism and flow and vinyl presses. So now the means of production has become available to everyone, to all and sundry. It's about cutting through the noise. As Nikki says, it's about cutting through the noise. It's about obviously having a great product, from the outset, and then having a really good live musical platform and you can build your own enterprise in the music industry. I am so excited about our next 20 years in the music industry. So Mr. Butterworth,
Good to agree with you more, mate.
Yeah.
You're most welcome.
Time, and may you live long and prosper as possible.
Fantastic.
No,
Have
Rick,
a great day, guys.
it's been great to have you today. And everyone, please stick with us, because what Rick has talked about today is what we are all about at Pushworth and Music Means Business. It's about building your digital assets, getting that brand narrative happen, and building your music brand so that you're not just putting out a song for the hell of it. You're not just getting up on stage for the hell of it. You've got a long-term business plan, and that's what we're all about. And Rick, we're going to play this video over and over and over to our artists because we are so grateful for what you've shared today. Thank you so much. We will see you next time. Rick, it's been a pleasure.
Most welcome anytime.
Bye,
It's been
everyone.
great to speak with you guys too.
Cheers,
Next
Rick.
time. Bye.
Cheers.